Is exactly why your PT, your nutritionist, anyone that you've tried to get help for your binge eating hasn't been able to fix your binge eating. And this was particularly common in people that see psychologists or therapists for binge eating cessation. And I'm not one to clown on any of these people. I think they all have their place. But typically, when it comes to fixing a relationship with food and specifically binge eating, these people may not be the best people to reach out to. And that is because binge eating is something that is practically solved as well as psychologically solved. Binge eating is something that is a response to restriction, and that's where the practical strategies come in. But it's also a response to unprocessed emotion, and that's where the psychological aspects come in. And typically, when we see PTs or nutritionists or psychologists, they focus on one area. They have a focus on the practical strategies, or they focus on the psychological strategies. And for me personally, what helped myself was targeting both. And I'm someone that struggled with binge eating for over 10 years, from the age of 16 years old when I first started losing weight, and it was all about getting the body to attract the opposite sex, to the age of about 25, to which I fully felt like I was able to have a grip on this. And what changed was a few things for me, but it wasn't exclusively implementing a practical strategy or exclusively implementing a psychological strategy. It was both. And in this video, I'm going to talk about exactly what I did, the practical strategies as well as the psychological strategies that you can try and mirror. And why listen to me is a great question you're probably asking. Well, I do this for a job. This is my career. Here is a few different case studies and testimonials and reviews that I've recently had on my Trustpilot. And here are a few kind of results that I've had as well in terms of the physical sense, because for a lot of people, stopping a relationship with binge eating is also related to them wanting to also lose weight. For some people, it's not, and binge eating isn't something that affects just one type of person and one image, like an overweight or an obese individual. It's something that can affect anyone. I've worked with athletes, I've worked with very, very high performers who are 60, 70 kilos, not 100 plus. So that's why you should listen to me. But also, I've got the personal experience too. So let's break it down. And I first want to start with the psychological strategies, because this is probably what you've heard before. Actually, with that said, let me make it exciting. Let me tell you something you've probably not heard before, and that is the practical strategies. And this is where I think, for me personally, the implementation of this strategy made the most change and the most difference, right? Again, it had to be paired with the psychological work. But this practical strategy of my approach to food changed the game for me. And it's something we call portion-based eating. And actually, if you're interested in getting the guide, I'm going to post a link down below which you can click on and you can receive the guide. So all you'll have to do is just put in your email and I'll send it over to you. But I'll make that possible and you can have this guide for free. But this guide to portion-based eating. Portion-based eating is essentially how we reverse engineer calorie counting. Because what is really important when we're trying to repair a relationship with food is to still have a level of control. And that is even more important when things like weight loss are in the equation too. You know, we're kind of fighting two battles here where we're trying to lose weight as well as stop binge eating. But it's plausible and it's possible. And I've done it countless times with individuals and in my own journey too. So how do we do it, right? And what does portion-based eating actually look like? Well, like I said, we're reverse engineering calorie counting. And so we have a level of control over what we're eating. And this is actually where we look at food in food groups and portions, not necessarily by calories and numbers. We give them the respect they actually deserve. So how we look at the food groups is we split them into four. We have protein food groups, fat food groups, carbohydrate food groups. These are our three macronutrients. And then we have fiber as well. And I've included the fourth one. Some people don't, some people do. The reality is there's going to be fiber in carbohydrates typically, right? Carbohydrates are going to be fruits, veggies, starchy potatoes, whatever. But ultimately, I like to break them up because fibrous foods that are fibrous, are going to have such a good impact on levels of satiety and therefore keep us fuller for longer in comparison to carbohydrates, which don't have a lot of fiber. So how we kind of look at it is we want to be promoting a balanced diet. So we want to be making sure that we're every single meal having all four of these ideally on the plate. And we want to promote the plate to have more protein and fiber than it will carbs and fats. How I kind of look at it is 2/3 of the plate you want to have protein and fiber, and then 1/3 of the plate you want to have carbohydrates and fats. And again, this is just applying itself to the actual underpinning, nutritional kind of qualities of these food groups. Fibrous foods, protein-rich foods are going to keep us fuller for longer. They're going to keep us satiated. That is their role. That's their property. And so if we eat more of them, we're naturally not going to be as hungry in comparison to if our diet was largely carbohydrates and fats. With that said, though, a big reason why people binge eat is because they have restriction in their diet. They're not consuming carbs. They're not consuming fats. So we still want to make sure these get in our body because ultimately carbs are really important for energy production and fats are really important for hormonal balance. So it's still essential that each meal we build the plate like this. We build a balanced plate. That is the practical approach to eating that helped me and has helped all my clients fix their relationship with food. But it must be done in tandem with the psychological work. Because the reality is, if you're someone that binge eats every few days, every week, even once every month or two, you're probably going to do it again even when applying this strategy. When I first applied this strategy, it wasn't just I never binge ate again. Did it once or twice, but I learned from it. And the psychological aspects that you need to learn is, why am I binging? You need to ask yourself this question of why after you binge. So the next day, say tonight you binge. The next morning, or ideally that night, but the next morning, I need you to ask yourself two questions. What led to that binge? And then how can I make today different so I don't binge again? Once we know why something happened, we're able to then act accordingly and make sure it doesn't happen again. But instead, what a lot of us do is they simply go, hey, I binged, I'm going to restrict, I'm going to eat nothing today, I'm going to fast, I'm going to eat very little. And actually what that does is it fuels that binge eating cycle again. Binge restrict cycle, we call it. And you're just going to end up binge eating again because you're putting your body in a state of starvation. So how I need you to do this exercise is to look internally and ask yourself why you binged. And for a lot of people, it's two-parted. It is one, maybe they didn't consume enough calories that day, or they're restricting certain food groups that they really wanted to include in their diet, or they were looking for food as a comfort blanket. And this is really, really common, and this is tying into the psychological lens. And this is really where you need to ask yourself, how can I get comfort outside of food? Typically, and for me this was the case, I would binge eat when I felt lonely, when I felt sad. And in fact, what I didn't need there was food to comfort me. I needed human connection. I needed friends. I needed my partner at the time. I don't have one anymore, but at the time. And I needed connection. I needed community. And what you therefore need to go do, exercise number 2 of this two-parted exercise, is you need to implement that. Because if you don't, it's just going to repeat, right? If we continue doing the same thing over and over again, we're only going to continue getting the same results, right? So what I therefore need you to do is understand why you binged, whether it was you weren't eating enough or whether you were, needing that psychological comfort, and then go address that. how can you make sure that you have someone in your environment this evening, for example? Whether that's you call them, you text them, you go meet them. Like, what can you do that helps you in that psychological comfort aspect, to not mean you're lonely, to not mean you're sad and depressed and anxious about the world? And that's the harder bit, if I'm going to be honest. That's the harder bit to implement because it's less tangible and it's less easy to access. There's more barriers. Of course, you've got to know people, right? And that can be hard for a lot of people that struggle with binge eating. Maybe they don't have tons of friends, right? Because it's quite an alienating kind of illness to have. But it's essential, and it is essential we do it. This video, I'm mindful of time here. We've been going for about 10 minutes now, and I don't want to keep you too long. But this video is only one of many that I'm going to be producing over the next few hours in terms of answering any questions, any problems that people I speak to on a daily basis have. And so I'm going to film some new videos, which are going to be populated all over my YouTube over the next few days and few weeks. But if you have any questions, if you have any problems that you're facing and you'd like some answers to, please drop them down below in the comments. I will also put in the description of this YouTube video a link to work with me. This is an expression of interest. I do not work with every single person that expresses their interest. I need to make sure that I can help you, and that's why the expression of interest is needed. But if you are someone that is looking to fix your relationship with food, end binge eating, potentially even lose some weight as a byproduct of this, because not all people binge eat and want to lose weight, then tap that link, submit an interest form, and I'll see how I can help and if I can. And I'll get in touch if that's the case. But hopefully this has helped. If you still have some questions, feel free to find me on Instagram. My username is the same as my YouTube, george.barnstable. And feel free to contact me there. You can also put some questions down below in the comments section of this YouTube video, which I can make some further videos on. And finally, if you are looking to get some one-on-one support, you can put an interest form in as well. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one.